Pamela, I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Thank you for joining me for the Teach Music Online podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Tell everyone listening where you live and what your studio looks like currently.
So, I am in South Glengarry, which is in Eastern Ontario. I'm in like a small town in South Glengarry. Um, there's more cows than people in the town.
Fun
Um,
fact.
Fun fact. Yeah, my entire studio is online. I have everybody, I'm kind of teaching a little more part time than I usually would be. So I'm teaching on like 3 days a week, mornings and afternoons on two of those days, and just afternoons on the one. So it's nice. I like having it consolidated and everybody's online. So it's great.
Awesome. Have you ever had students in person there where you guys live now?
No. We
Wow,
actually,
that's so
so
cool.
I had my in-person studio in Cornwall, which is like half an hour from here. Um, and it was in our tiny apartment. So I had like this tiny, tiny bedroom that I kind of fit like my students in. Um, and then, yeah, with the pandemic hitting, we went online. And then in the fall of 2020, we bought this house and moved here. And I didn't love the setup for doing in-person lessons, but we had other options if I wanted to do that. And then in 2022, I was like, no thanks. I would like to stay
Just
online.
stay. Wow.
Yeah.
So neat. Because I also went to Berkeley, tell me about your experience at Berkeley. How did you like it there and what did you study specifically? Was it piano and violin or just violin?
It was just violin, and I I loved it so much. I mean, I went and studied violin because I was like, oh, I want to do something where I'm not like just going into like a classical conservatory,
Yeah.
and trying to compete with other people for these orchestral jobs and things like that. It was too high pressure.
Mhm.
And then I found Berkeley and I was like, oh, this is perfect because I get to kind of go and do anything and everything with this. Um, and so, yeah, it was a super fun experience because I got to play on film scores. I got to tour
Yeah.
with other musicians. Um, got to play with lots of singer songwriter stuff, lots of recording experience, which was really fun. Um, and then playing with like Berkeley World Strings, they would do music inspired by, you know, different cultural traditions and things like that. So that was always fun. I don't.
Oh, cool.
It was great. I loved it so much.
It really does they offer so many things and it opens your eyes to what the world of music and the variety of music. And I'm sure as a teacher now that it's majorly influenced how you teach students, like not just to play only classical or only this, but to have a variety of things that they learn.
Yeah, and just to see the value in those other things, that it's not like just one way of doing
Yeah.
things, you know? So, like, I have a student who just loves Disney music. And so, for a while, I just gave her all Disney music. That's all we did was Disney music. And she just was so happy with it. And she was learning like a ton with it. So, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I'm curious, did you ever, before the pandemic, consider online lessons or think you would be teaching online?
No, I did. So before all of this, I did do like a few years of teaching via Skype, for one student, that I had in Boston before I left. So I taught him for 3 years. It was kind of unexpected that we would go that long. It was just to be an interim until he found another teacher there. Um, but we did that for 3 years, and it was fun. Like they would send me scans of the music, that they were
Yeah.
wanting to learn or working on, and yeah, it was all like all his lesson notes were sent via email, and
Hmm.
it was great. It worked out fine, but I was like, oh, I'm not doing this for everybody. This would be silly.
Right. Right. It wasn't necessarily like a goal to be only online and probably
Yeah.
because you weren't diving into it, you didn't know what you could do with with online.
No. Well, I even thought like, oh, well, I'm not able to point at the music for the students, and I'm not able to adjust their hand position just by like touching their hand, you know? Um, but I actually had an adult student like comment recently that they enjoyed the fact that I couldn't go and do that because I guess a previous teacher had just like gone right in and moved their hands around, and it was like, no, please don't do that. So I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I was thinking about as well, that um, to be able to explain things to students in a way that they can understand without having to manipulate their
Yeah.
bodies in any way is huge, because some people just really don't like to be touched, and they don't like that physical contact or closeness, you know?
Yeah. Well, I always think this, it's harder for the teacher, but it's way better for the student,
Mm-hmm.
because they have to listen and they have to act. Like, I can
Yeah.
remember being in person with so many beginner students where you're pointing constantly and like, this is where we are. Hold up your hand. Show me, And when they're online, they actually have to be the one to do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
it was so eye-opening when I first went online how much I was doing for the student so they didn't have to, and how that was not beneficial to the student.
No, it's like, can you find measure five? And they're like, I don't know what that is. You're like, oh, yeah, okay, this is pretty important. We need to understand what these measures are and where we are. Like, it's crazy. So I'm finding a lot more independence from the students, which is great.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That kind of leads us into this question of what have been some unexpected wins or moments that you felt like with online that you didn't expect, maybe during the pandemic, some benefits to teaching online.
Um, I would say one of my favorite ones is that I'm a lot healthier. I used to get sick all the time while I was teaching, and like every 2 or 3 years, I'd get hit with something like major, like mono, or a throat infection that would like hit twice. The one year it hit twice, and then I ended up realizing I had asthma because I was coughing all through the rest of the school year. So like if I had had to cancel all my lessons, like I was teaching while I was sick. It's horrible. But I wouldn't have had an income, and now it's like, oh yeah, I can teach, I can stay healthy. Not that I don't like go and see people and go out in the world, because I do, but as with kids, I find they just kind of bring everything in, right? So I'm a lot healthier. I also love that all of the lesson time is devoted to the lesson. Like, do you ever notice that? Like, students come, they have their stuff already prepared, the lesson can start, and I can use the whole
Yeah.
lesson time.
Yeah. And I feel like because it's online, it's so much easier to be on time. It's
Yeah.
like you're just at your house, usually, you can just pop
Yeah.
online. So
And
you
even
do
if
really
they're
get,
late,
yeah.
yeah, even if they're late, it's like you can send them a text. You'll be like, hey, your lesson's now. And they're like, oh, I can get online within like 2 minutes. So that's
Yes,
nice.
absolutely. So I'd love to chat today a little bit about studio management tools, a little bit about tools and just how you are able to manage it. There are some people listening who also are either young moms or they have just kids around, and it can feel hard to find time for teaching, for planning lessons, for doing all the administration, and then feel like you're still fulfilling your role as a mother, and showing up for your family. So I don't know. Let's start with, first of all, maybe like some studio management, like actual tools that you use that you feel like do help you manage your time.
So I was always I've been planning all of my work around my son's naps, which now is a little bit different, right? Because he's switching to one nap a day as of like a week ago. So of course I have to switch my whole system. Um, but I have a lot of help from my family, which is great. So during my teaching hours right now, I have my mom or my mother-in-law that can help with Ronan, and then in the evenings I now have a babysitter as well for the 3 days a week. Um, so I really try and consolidate when I'm teaching, and then I'll plan for like during nap times on Mondays and Fridays that I can work during those times. So I kind of say, okay, this is when I'm able to work, and I'll do that. I also put him in like a sensory play area sometimes to get some work done. So that's super duper helpful. Um, yeah, I
Oh, great. I love that you're being um deliberate and intentional about like when the work happens,
yeah.
because that's where some parents where it falls through is it's like you have this to-do list in your head, and because you are with your child, if you try to work while you're with them, that's when it gets hard and you start to feel the stress or you start to feel the guilt. But it sounds like you use those are Mondays and Fridays like your office hours, basically, where
Yeah.
you're doing other things other than teaching during his nap.
Yeah. So I'll try and do stuff like that. And then also even like during the like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, during his nap I can work as well. So that like my Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays are like full work days. And then when he's not napping and when I'm not teaching, I also will plan for, okay, like this is time for us to go for a walk, and this is time for us to do, this other activity, or plan a play date with a friend. Um, so I really try and well, really at the beginning of the day, my husband takes our dog and son out for a walk. So he'll give me like 20 to 30 minutes with my coffee and my little notebook or whatever. And I actually will kind of plan out exactly what's happening that day. So I'll say, okay, like this is when I'm teaching, this is when I'm going to do this work, and this is when I'm going to do that work. And I choose one priority for the day with like maybe two other things if I can fit them in,
Oh,
you
that's
know.
great. Tell me about how you manage billing and invoicing. Do you have a system that you like?
So I run on a semester system where I have like students pay for like 3 months of lessons at a time. So they'll pay for like a chunk of 12 lessons
Hmm.
um, in advance, which is great because I don't have to worry about billing for 3 months. Um, they all pay via like e-transfer at this point, which is nice because I don't have so many that I need to do like automated billing right now. Um, but yeah, I just do billing 3 times in the school year, and then
Wow.
maybe in the summer depending on what I'm planning to do.
I'm curious with that. Do they still commit to certain weeks or is it flexible with when they can take? Like, can they cancel with those or do you do no cancellations?
No cancellations. So basically, if they can't make it for their lesson, they have the option to send a video, and then I will deal with that during their lesson time. So I'll send like feedback. But if they choose not to do that, it's,
Yeah.
it's just their loss. Um, I do,
And that's been okay with them on their end. Like,
yeah,
they understand that they can choose to send you a video and get feedback and new assignments or not. And that's just their decision.
yeah, it's 100% up to them. They have the option, it's available. There's a lot of people that don't take me up on it, which is surprising.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of wish they would, but that's all right. You know.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to ask because a lot of teachers are so hesitant to give up providing makeup lessons for lesson cancellations just because we all have a big heart and we all know that it costs a lot of money per lesson and we all know things come up and things happen for families.
Yeah.
But when you're running a business that you want to scale and get bigger, we can't let that overtake your time,
Yeah.
and your mind, because even though you think you can do it, it's still like in your mind all day long when you have to plan some makeup lessons or plan this. So I think if anything, teachers just need a system for it versus not having a system and just doing makeups whenever they want.
Yeah. Like that's my makeup system right now. I also say in my policies or for the tuition, it includes 2 free lessons per school year. So that way they feel like, oh, okay, if I miss a lesson or two, it's not a big deal because, that's
That's
like
great.
if you've missed because of like an emergency situation or things like that, there is a provision for that, which is
Okay.
great.
Yeah, that's so great. Also wondering about lesson assignments. How do you send assignments to your students via online? Are you using an app? Are you using Google Docs or email?
I've been doing email, so I actually will just pull up, like I'll search by their email to pull up their previous week's lesson notes, and then that way I have that available, and then I open a new email and type away. So
Simplifying things. I love it.
yeah, and if I do a video in Zoom, I'll just drag and drop it after. So if it's small enough that I can drag and drop. So yeah.
So cool. So you have been a member of Teach Music Online for a while now,
Yeah.
and I think it's been a little over 6 months. It's so fun. I remember when you joined thinking, "Yay, another young mom." It's so fun. And and it's been fun to watch you incorporate new things, and I can remember your first email, which just this vision that you have for your studio.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear when you found it, what was like, why did you join? Was it the idea of the future of your business, or like what was exciting to you about being a part of our community?
Oh yeah, it had everything to do with future of business because I was like, after I had Ronan, I was trying to get back into teaching. I think I started back with like 5 of my students in November of 2021, and I had them like end of August. So it was really only a couple of months, and then I started teaching a few students for my own sanity because I needed something to something to do outside of baby. Um, and then January rolled around, and I was scheduling students, like scheduling everybody again. And then I started thinking about, oh, everything's opening back up. People are thinking about doing in person again, and I really just don't want to. I love the convenience of this. Um, but of course I was freaking out about it because I was like, oh, I want to make sure that, you know, let's say people don't take to this and they don't like this idea. I want to be able to reach a larger audience and not be stuck to, just teaching people in my hometown or. So I really kind of had a little spiral moment. And I think I was probably watching one of your webinars. And I had seen some of your webinars before, but I didn't really think of this as a long-term thing. I think you talked about your course creation. And I was like, oh, it'd be so nice to be able to create a course that, when I'm on mat leave or something, I can send this to students that want to start or, yeah. So anyway, I just got really excited about it and journaled about it a bunch, talked to my husband about it, talked to my mom, who's also a piano teacher. Cause I was like, I just want to stay online and I feel like this is going to help me, make this what I want it to be. Yeah. And so I jumped in, and then when I opened up the course, it was like everybody's so positive and excited and everything was just so nice, and it just kind of brought joy back to thinking about building my business. Because I think everything kind of was stagnant and very much like trying to accommodate a problem, right? Instead of moving forward and creating something.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it. Gosh, we're so, as music teachers, often many of us are so isolated, and you don't know what you don't know at the same time. It's like there are teachers just like you who are going through the exact same process that you have now met and been friends with, and you can learn from each other and learn from the solutions of someone else and learn from the challenges that someone else is going through. Like, there is so much power in community and in friendship that's different from Facebook, a
Yeah.
Facebook group where usually people go there when they need to vent or when they need sometimes it's positive, but I would say the most of the time you just get this like unleashing of emotion.
Yeah, I was definitely finding that in like a lot of the piano teacher groups that I was like, oh, you know what? This is so negative, and
Yeah.
I feel awful every time I'm on here because it's yet another person complaining about the same problem, and like a whole bunch of other teachers just kind of chiming in about how horrible this is, and no no real solutions and no real
Yeah.
like positivity on there. So
Yeah.
it's been
I
really
agree.
nice to have that positivity on TMO for sure.
Oh, it's such a fun place. It's amazed me. Like I love creating content in the courses, and it's been 3 years now that I've been doing the courses and content, but I can say that honestly the community was so unexpected. And I had
Mm.
heard from other people who do what I do, like your community will amaze you, and I was hopeful, like I hope I can find, fantastic teachers who I can relate to, and they just kind of like find it, and
Yeah.
it attracts the right type of teacher who is ambitious, who is like setting big goals and is open to feedback, open to change, and like you have just kind of fallen right into that community.
Yeah, which is amazing. It's so good.
What have been some of your biggest takeaways from any of the courses or modules as you've been going through them? I know you're working through it right now, but what have been
Yeah.
some of your favorite aspects of the course?
Off email templates, time saver, major time saver.
Yeah.
Every time I have an inquiry, I have something I can send, which is great. Um, I'm not super effective at task batching, but I'm getting better at it. I'm a total squirrel when it comes to working, so I have to like plan out my day time like time by time, you know. 7 a.m. I'm going to practice. Um, I also really liked making a curriculum sheet that makes it really easy to find stuff for my students within the level because I thought I had it organized online, but the curriculum guide is kind of like, oh yeah, okay, this song is good for like this level, and I have all my Halloween lists and stuff, and it's Christmas lists. It's great. I have
Yes.
everything
It's a living
organized.
thing that you can always be adding to and
Yeah.
referring to. It's not like, and it's not someone else's, it's yours. It's what you've created.
Yeah. And I also liked getting really clear, like having to get really clear on my pricing format because I was doing semesters before, but each semester was slightly different in length, to kind of go with like
Mm.
holidays and the school year and stuff. It made sense, but it made it so that I'd have to like do work at the invoicing time every time, right? So now it's like, oh, okay, I already know what it's going to cost. My students already know what it's going to cost and when it's due. It's
Right.
great. So,
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
yeah.
Little things that I think we often think about as studio owners, but having a course with like a checklist and it's just one thing at a time, you go through it, is something that everyone needs and is often hard to do without the accountability and without somebody telling you how to do it. Like,
It's
we don't
true.
need to reinvent it.
It's like why did I not do this before? I don't really understand. Like it's not that hard to do. But yeah, just having that like checklist and the accountability like you're saying, it really makes a huge difference. And like right now I'm working on the website builder course. So of course I've got all these little things that need to be checked off and I'm like, wow, this is hard doing this from scratch. But like I got to check off photography yesterday, so that
Yay!
is
Did you
like
take it? Did you take photos?
I have a friend of mine is a really good photographer, and so he also his daughter started taking piano lessons as well. So I was asking him about photography, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do photos. Can my daughter take lessons from you?" I was like, "Yes, that's perfect. Great."
Perfect. Oh, I can't wait to see them. That's such a huge step to get photos because it sets your
Yeah.
studio apart when you have those images that are like, oh, this teacher takes their business seriously. They have real photos.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to be able to get those out there cuz yeah. It's really
Yes.
exciting.
And it makes building, I'll say also, it makes building your website so much easier because it
Oh
looks so
yeah.
pretty. And so you're like, oh, all I need to do is, go through my text and condense it down and think about those
Yeah,
steps. But I feel like it's way motivating. So congrats. That's exciting.
it
You'll have to share it
is.
with us.
Yeah. I'm super happy about it.
I have to ask, do you, because you teach violin and piano, is there one that you hope to do more of over the other, or do you feel like you will always have both violin and piano?
I'll probably have both always. Yeah, it's a good question because I get such a wide range of like I don't know, abilities and interests when especially when it comes to violin. Um, there's a lot of people in the area that really enjoy Celtic and Scottish music, and so they often will want to kind of go down that road. Um, but I'm always like, hey, let's make sure we have this the technique and the classical and stuff underneath this at the same time. Um, but yeah, I like having students with multiple interests. I had one that has she's taking a little break right now because of course she has a bunch of other things that she's wanting to do that are in person this year. But she's planning to be back. She's always interested in like blues for like a month, and then she's really interested in fiddle music for another month, and then she's like, oh, you know what? I really want to focus on classical. I'm like, let's pare it down a little bit. So yeah, you get. I don't know. I like both. I find violin a little trickier to teach online, um, just because of it's so much easier for me to just go out and move people's hands. But it's also taught me to really explain things in so many different ways so that students can understand it. So
Right.
it's great.
So cool. Well, I think you will land where you need to land. Like it'll just happen the way it needs to. And violin might be like your fun couple lessons a week, but mostly
Yeah.
working on with piano students, which
Yeah.
it's amazing when you have the multiple talents like that that you can do. And you could do voice as well if you needed to do voice lessons.
Yeah. Well, I've never taken any. I just like to sing a lot. So
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
I've had people ask for voice, but I usually say no, you should go study with someone who knows what they're doing.
You're like, here are 5 online teachers I recommend that you
Yeah.
know. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. This was so fun to chat. I guess my last question is for teachers who want to teach online but have kids, what words of motivation or encouragement would you have for them? Because they likely have been where you have been, where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Maybe a spouse that's working and you want to fulfill that passion as well. Like you want to, it's so fulfilling to be able to work as a parent. Any words for them of encouragement or ideas to kind of get them going in the right direction?
Get a babysitter or a family to come and help you if you can. Um, because like, I don't know if you really, if you've never done it, just try it because it doesn't have to be complicated. Um, the mute button is really great when your child is being a little crazy. Um, but yeah, like I don't know, I would just do it, just try it.
Yeah, and I would add on that that desire isn't going to go away. Like,
No.
some people do just want to be parents and stay home with their kids, which is amazing to me. And I feel like there might be a season where that's all that I do. But I also have such a desire to help others and to be, in my, like, it helps me mentally to have that outlet so much. And then I would tell anybody that you can show up for your family differently when you have that time away, and that we never need to feel guilty about it as
Yeah.
mothers, like that we should be doing something, even if somebody has told you that it's not true. And there are so many ways to show up with for our family. Sometimes I think about the actual hours. I'm like, like I'm actually with my darling 3 daughters, I don't know, a good 10 hours of the day. Like a good, or
Yeah.
8 or 9 hours some days, but it's like that's a lot of time that I have to enjoy that part of my life as well.
Yeah, like I just try and schedule I think it's good to schedule time with your family as well. Like just to kind of say, hey, this is the time that I have for my family and I'm not working during that time. Because I know if anybody's like me, like I'm a workaholic. I think about work probably like way too many hours of the day. Um, and my husband will tell you I'll stay up all night sometimes if there's like something that's really stressing me out. Um, so that's not necessarily healthy, but um, I try to compartmentalize it a little bit and really try and say, okay, if this is for family time, it's for family time. Like my weekends are family time. I don't teach on weekends. I don't do anything to do with teaching on weekends. I just enjoy family time, cook meals. Like we do meal prep on Sundays where we prep all of our meals for Monday through Friday so that I don't have to cook during the week. So if there's any moms
Awesome.
out there that need that kind of help, yeah.
I prep my meals in my mind. And
Well, I just
sometimes
found
I'm
I
like,
was cooking
that's,
like cooking
I
breakfast,
know.
cooking lunch, cooking dinner, and you're like, I spend all these hours cooking
Yeah. It's never done. Yeah.
and cleaning. You're like, oh, there's
Yes.
so many dishes all the time.
I
You're like, how
know.
do I have time to work? I can't. So,
Yes. Setting boundaries, setting goals, and then allowing yourself to do all the things is such a great reminder for moms, and no matter the ages of their kids. Like
oh
I
yeah.
think it's healthy to work, it's good, and we get to impact others in positive ways. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pamela, for joining me today. I'm going to link some of your links that you shared with me below if anyone wants to reach out to you or get to know your studio a little bit better. It was so fun to spotlight you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.